believe that I've got all the answers, I can assure you. But I've kind of thought about this, and I'm kind of coming to sort of the following observations, and I'll throw these out there for you, and I stand ready to have a discussion with you to see if there's any merit in this. But this is what I think is going on. I think, firstly, the reason why people are engaging in tried and tested stuff that doesn't work via interruption marketing is that you're new to business. And because you're new to business, you really don't have any experience about how business really works. Or if you're new to business, what you're doing is you're sort of, taking your directions and your cues from other people that are doing things that are kind of classically stated interruption marketing. And you don't really have any clue as to whether or not this stuff is going to work until after you've done it. But how many of you have started businesses and then engaged in all the classic, marketing techniques that you think are going to work because it appears that's what everybody else is doing, and really got no results out of them whatsoever? So I think this is why, if you're new to business, you really need a good mentor. But you need a mentor who's done it, who's experienced it, who's been successful. There's no point in having a mentor who hasn't been successful in business, and successful in modern business, not the old way of doing things. So I think this is one reason potentially why people continue to engage in interrupting marketing. I think the second reason is that you hear so much stuff, you've got absolutely no idea who you're supposed to believe or what you're supposed to believe. There are gurus around every corner, right? Myself included, I suppose. But how do you know what to believe? I think the maxim that those who can do, and those who can't teach, is really quite relevant as well here. Now, I don't want to disparage anybody that stands up and shares the benefits of their experience with other people, because that's just exactly what I'm doing as well. But I do think that you have to kind of observe quite closely the pedigree of those people who are ostensibly directing your thoughts to engage in marketing, so to speak, in a particular way. And then ask you, well, if they're teaching me, why aren't they doing it? Now, I prefer not to classify myself as what I'm doing as teaching today. What I'm doing is I'm kind of reporting to you what I've done. And therefore, you can at least learn from my example, given the amount of transparency that I've given you as to what's actually going on in our business. But I do think you really need to be a bit circumspect about the kind of lessons that you're learning from people whose job it is to teach rather than it is to do. I think another problem that explains why interruption marketing continues on is that people tend to think that all these discrete approaches to marketing your product and service, all these tactics, collectively represent a strategy. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think you need to found a strategy on something more profound. And as we've done in our business, as you'll see, the strategy that we have got has essentially been to parlay our expertise and help people by answering their questions and help them solve their problems. And then the issue of marketing then falls away, because everyone in this room tonight, I've got your permission, right? You're here, I've emailed you. You've received my email, I've had your permission to invite you. You've received it and you're coming along. That's not a tactic. This is a fundamental part of a commission marketing strategy. And I think this is probably a really, really big reason why people do it. And that is they are lazy marketeers. And what they do normally is they say, right, well, I've got this great idea, so I'm going to spend all my time initially manifesting my idea into a product or a service. And then once I've got my product and my service all in the can, ready to sell, I'm now going to take my product or my service out to market, and I'm going to try and sell it. And this approach means essentially what you do is you engage in tactical marketing, because you look at all the different formulas that you can use to take your product or your service to market, whatever they are, and then you start engaging essentially in interruption marketing. Whereas, if you have built your product and your service from the get-go, anticipating that you're not going to market, that your product is going to have intrinsic attraction to the people who are necessarily going to be wanting it or needing it. So, lazy marketing, it's a crime. Total failure of imagination. Another issue that I suspect might be in play here is that, you know, the whole startup community, be it sort of 5 years old now, I guess, it's engaging in this huge hoo-ha about how profoundly brilliant it is to be a startup and to be a startup entrepreneur. And so people spend an awful amount of time on startup activities that actually don't really deliver much value, I believe. Things like, you know, pitches, practicing your pitches, competitions. From all the startup entrepreneurs that I know that have kind of pushed through and been successful, I can't remember a single one of them who said to us, you know what, you know that 5,000 Hong Kong dollar prize that we won in that competition for, you know, the most sophisticated app or whatever, that didn't directly lead to us in any meaningful sense of the success that we went on to achieve. And similarly, the whole idea of, you know, pitching on trams and pitching here and pitching there and just doing stuff that is entertaining for startup entrepreneurs, but actually takes you off the main goal. And the main goal is to develop a product or service that people really want and to have imbued inside your product or service a natural route for people to find it and for people to want it from you. And that's the main challenge. So the whole idea of startup entertainment, I think, is something of a red herring. It discourages ultimately joined up thinking, because, you know, if you're a startup and you're seeking to, you know, take advantage of your entrepreneurial seizure, I mean, you're not stupid, right? What you do is you go and find kind of all the best-in-class thinking that's out there. You find those people who are in your niche or doing things the way that you would like to do, or people that you respect, or all this kind of stuff. I think that is time best spent on working more properly from the get-go on your business model. I think another problem is that the startup community is focused on getting an MVP and then so-called growth hacking your way to success. Now, I've got the utmost respect for Eric Ries. I think what he has done with startup, the lean startup, has formulated finally an approach to thinking about a business model when you've no experience. And I think it's a fantastic piece of work. But the issue is, what's missing in my view, this idea that it's not enough just to get a product, a minimum viable product, and take it to market. You've got to understand the core reality of why people might want to buy that from you, and factor that into every facet of your efforts to take it to market.